All right. Hello, everybody. I think now I've got everyone here from our Alcoa. We'll get started. My name's Holly. I'm from the Unearth team. If you can't hear me, please do let me know. Although I'm going to say that. So I'm going to kind of MC the webinar for today. Just do a few intros, let everyone know how it's going to work. This is being recorded, so you'll be able to access it afterwards as well. So thanks very much for joining. The webinar will last for about an hour. It's an opportunity for you to hear from the team at Alcoa about the Board of the Future Challenge, ask any technical questions, any questions about their processes. So the way this is going to work, I'll let Pierre, who's going to lead the talk, introduce himself and spend a bit of time running through the challenge. He's got a short video to share as well. And then we'll basically open up the floor for you guys to ask questions. If you want to type any questions while the guys are talking, there is down the bottom a Q&A button. So at any point in time, feel free to pop a question in there, and then the guys can answer that after we finish talking about the challenge. Also, feel free to pop anything in the chat as well at any time if you have any questions, if anything doesn't seem to be working, like audio or video or anything like that. So we might get straight into it. So Pierre, if you can unmute yourself and start your video, we'll see if we can get everything working.
I'm going to have Johan Reps give an introduction.
Okay,
here's Johan.
Hi everybody, Johan Reps. I look after the digital connected worker automation and robotics efforts for Alcoa globally. To give you some context and a very brief introduction behind this project, Alcoa is a global company specialized in the mining of bauxite, refining of alumina, and smelting of aluminium. We have 27 locations worldwide in Brazil, North America, Iceland, Norway, Spain, and Australia. The majority or all of the people on the call today are based out of Australia, where this project has initiated from. We have a variety of manual boards to manage our daily toolbox meetings, work execution, reporting of some of the work execution in some instances, visibility on some of our KPIs, so key process indicators, whether our refineries, mines, and smelters are operating as expected and reporting on data points as expected. As we're moving into, or we're accelerating our digital transformation, we have received a mandate from our executive lead team to digitize these boards and provide our locations with more real-time information on the variety of KPIs and systems that are currently being captured manually. Alcoa historically developed custom solutions. This is something that we have decided to avoid for this particular project, so we actually want to investigate what the market has to offer. What off-the-shelf solution can be ideally cloud hosted rather than on-prem, what can be purchased and implemented in a reasonable or rather quick time frame with minimal customization for the purpose of Alcoa, but the ability to customize the board using the existing off-the-shelf functionalities to integrate with a variety of web apps and SQL servers that are hosting the solutions we want to digitize. So that's it for the brief introduction, and I'll hand it over to Pierre.
Hi, I'm Pierre Stout, Business Improvement Manager at one of the refineries in Western Australia, the Kwinana Refinery near Perth. I'm going to take you on a virtual tour of the systems as they're in use today. So I'm going to show you all of these systems.
I don't think it's presenting right now.
Not presenting yet. Very good. And I need to do that.
Screen and you can share.
Yeah. All right, I believe I'm sharing.
Yep, we can see it. No audio yet though. I think, Pierre, we can't hear you anymore.
Okay, there we go. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. We can hear you now.
All right, so the levels of our system, and I'm going to show you each of these systems in place. We have production visual management systems and maintenance daily management systems, cascading up to a department or an op center, and then to the location. So I'm going to take you on a virtual tour now. And I will be pausing after I get through the process side for a moment to show you what we are doing there.
Can you guys hear what, have you been able to hear what we've said for the last minute or so?
Yeah, everyone can hear you guys.
Okay, great.
We're about to start at the process control board. Starting at an op center process control board, show you quickly what is similar between each of these boards. Left-hand side of the board, you will see business case, metrics for the board, the business case, and auditing, and help chain, and board procedures. On the right-hand side of the board, you will see the Pareto, which is a system of prioritizing which problems are needing to be solved, a log of those problems, and then the actual problem solving itself. Each shift, the area process controller monitors against the parameters that are important to the op center and reacts to excursions and notes every excursion. So every red face is a problem for the Pareto. The op center uses the unplanned work execution board to note priority work and prioritize that work. That work is then prioritized at a plant level through the process controller's unplanned work meeting and through the plant production daily visual management meeting. This is the last production daily visual management system. It is the work execution board. There is two sources of that work. Routines. So this is work that is happening daily or up to maybe once a week. And also planned work.
We can't hear you, Pierre. I don't know if you're talking, but we can't hear you.
So,
Sorry about that. So that is the production side of our daily management. So that is operators who are coming to this board multiple times per day. But at the start of the day, they're getting their work assigned to them. From the routines which we discussed, and also from the equipment planning and scheduling system, which is that weekly plan. They are updating their work multiple times per day, ideally. going to move ahead to show you now the maintenance side of our system, and I'll let the video scroll through to the end after that.
Apologies, everybody. You can see we're having some technical problems. We're not in the building that we usually sit at.
Hang on one second. I'm going to try to fix this. I did do a test.
Holly, can everybody still hear us?
Yep, yep, you guys are still there. If anyone has any kind of questions as I was sorting this out, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or in the chat box.
Okay, I'm ready to go again.
Okay, excellent.
Folks.
Okay.
So here we go.
I don't think we've got the audio on that this time, Pierre.
So maybe what we'll do, we'll stop with the video because we probably want to open the floor more for questions. I guess the overall intent, if we had to summarize all of this and what you've seen so far on the board, is we have a variety of boards that capture information from a variety of systems, as I mentioned earlier. Some of them are in the process of being converted into web apps from .NET applications. Others would mainly have data stored in a historian or a SQL server. So what we're looking for is a digitization solution that would enable us to arrange our boards in whatever way we want, effectively being able to connect to any database directly or through an API to fetch the data that is relevant to a particular department of a particular location, replicate this across the variety of departments that are in that location with capability to roll up information. So what we mean by the roll up is if one department is showing information A and B, and the second department shows information C and D, we would want the ability for the next board that would be overarching at the plant level to show, for example, information A, B, C, and D aggregated into a single visual. Hopefully, we've given you enough of an understanding of what we're after. And Holly, unless you have any objections, maybe we can open the floor for questions.
Yeah, totally. Let's yeah, if everyone can pop their questions in the Q&A or the chat box. I've had one come through from Gary already around if you have any preference on cloud provider.
On cloud provider?
Yeah, do you have any preference on the cloud provider like AWS or Azure?
We predominantly use Microsoft Azure. We've had solutions hosted with AWS. I guess if we had the choice between the two, Azure would probably would be a little bit easier for us.
Yeah, just one additional comment on that, Johan, as exactly you said, but we also have some couple of solutions that is being hosted on AWS, but preferable, we'd like to go with Microsoft Azure because we have all the agreements with Microsoft and as well as security policies and other standards that we are following from the Microsoft world. Preferable Azure, but not mandatory.
Cool. And there's another question that's come through from, do you have any specifications on the UI/UX of the system?
Not particularly, or nothing, I guess, from a technical point of view. It's more from a, how do we put this? we want to move away from the current systems that we have where people need to be expert users. It needs to be intuitive, so anybody who walks into an Alcoa control room that doesn't have any experience can understand what they're looking at, and with a few minutes of training can understand how to interact with the board.
For myself, I think there will undoubtedly be a benefit if people can also interact on a device external to the physical board that's mounted on a wall, and that interface be intuitive and easy to use.
Yeah, I've just had a couple of questions. I don't know if you guys, Pierre, Johan, Guillaume, can see the questions popping up in the Q&A box at the bottom.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so yeah, feel free if you want to go and answer through any of those. Otherwise, I can keep reading them out.
I'm not sure if we'll be able to share the videos, but I guess I want to make sure the concern that I would have, other than that proprietary information that might be on the videos, is that we are not looking for something that would replicate our business process. We're looking for something that is customizable enough, so if our business process changes and there is new board that appears that isn't currently available on the video, we can do that integration and that deployment very quickly. So forget about the fact that the board is showing a routine or an unplanned work execution or a compliance of our employees with their mandatory training. What we want is the ability for the solution to connect into these databases and enable us to visualize the data however we want. If we had to, like, I guess, put it in, if we had to refer to a technical solution that could do this sort of stuff, theoretically, Power BI would be the process, right? Where you can go and connect to any database that you can think of, create your visuals on the spot, and drag and drop your relevant columns, apply the filters that you want, and have that as your data visualization. The two reasons why we are not going with Power BI to try and help you all understand what sort of technical requirements we're after. The first one is that we want to have the ability to display embedded web apps. So although we want to be able to create visuals inside that daily visual management system, there will be instances where we will want to show an embedded web application, Alcoa proprietary web application as it currently exists. We wouldn't want to have to recreate all the visualization. We would want to say, no, that system as it is, we want to show it in the bottom quarter of the screen. Power BI at the moment doesn't give us the ability to do that. And the second one is the ability to create content, either through an API pushing data back into the initial database that we are connecting to, or, and that's probably more important, the ability to create content within the board. So I'll give you an example. Assuming we have a visualization module that gives us a KPI, a value of 5, and we would expect that value to be at 10. We would want someone on the board to be able to enter a comment that will be attached to that particular KPI, but not necessarily feeding back into our historian. Just stay on the board so the next person that comes in the next shift can see that comment and understand what actions were taken or what concerns were shared earlier in the shift. And again, this is a functionality that doesn't exist as we want in Power BI.
Cool. So it's got quite a few questions coming in on the Q&A and in the chat. I will go through the ones in the Q&A first. Got some from Siobhan asking to explain a little bit more about how the information is transferred to the board currently. How's the current process running?
So if we go from the top question, will historian data sources be in scope? As in, do we want to purchase a historian? Is that what Gary means by this question?
No, I think, Johan, is if the solution needs to be interfaced with the historian, pulling
Yes.
data from historian. If
Okay.
that's the question, it is. So we have definitely this requirement to get data from the historian, whatever from web API provided by the historian or directly connector, but definitely you need to get interaction with the historian. Currently we have HANA PSG and OSI soft or PI system, but that's pretty much both of historians that you are using and you need to get data from.
And the third system to add to the comment made by Gima that will be heavily utilized will be EAM from Oracle, which is our CMS.
Asset management.
The access to the board would be from digital interactive. So when we say digital interactive board, and we've had a lot of discussions here, we are not dead set yet on needing a functionality to have an interactive touch screen, right? So it could simply be a solution casted onto a simple TV, and we would interact with this through a keyboard and a mouse. There might be a need in the future to have that interactive and touchscreen, but it's not a priority right now. Mobile is not our highest priority. It would be a benefit, but it's not our highest priority simply because of the complexity and the number of systems that we would integrate into this single solution. Our approach would probably be to have a mobile application to interact with the underlying system, refresh the information that is then displayed on the daily visual management. So mobile is less of a priority. Does the system need to be real time? Depending on the underlying database that we are connecting to, yes. And when we say real time, we probably don't mean seconds, but we would say probably 5 minutes.
And Johan, there are some questions.
We had actually, I'm getting some strong signal from the room. If we had to push this up to 30 minutes, this is something we could live with. Sorry, Holly, you were going to say something?
Can you see the Q&A box? There's like 7 questions that's actually in a separate box outside of the chat.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, hang on. Just finish. Why not use Power BI? Because we don't want people to flick from one solution to another, and because they can't create content in Power BI the way we want. We wouldn't be able to go back in time on the comments that were entered yesterday or a month ago. It's just, it doesn't quite give us the flexibility and the integration that we want. The current process looks very manual. Can you explain how the process is currently running? How does the info transfer to the board? It's handwritten. At the moment, someone goes and reads the existing database or the existing historian or the existing CMS solution, looks at a bit of information and handwrites the information onto the board.
And perhaps duplicates that information up through multiple levels of the system.
That's right. Would you prefer that the users interact with touch? Yes, theoretically, we're just mindful that, you know, if you look at the number of locations that we have, so 27 locations worldwide, we would have probably 6 departments in each location that would require digitization, probably between 3 and 4 boards per location. If we were to go and buy a touch TV for every single one of them, the capital investment would be quite substantial. So although we would appreciate it, it's not a priority at this point in time. Will the dashboard also need an app front end? I'm not sure I understand what we mean by this question.
Siobhan, maybe if you want to type something in there, I can always put your microphone on if you want to chat. Just let me know. Maybe we'll just skip to the next question for now.
Okay, so red, green, I'm not sure if this is a question. Next one, is this only going to depend on API integration or will there be manual input as well? Both. There will be, as I mentioned earlier, we will integrate data through an API or a direct query to a database. And there will be instances where we will want to input comments into the board and expect for them to be saved into the board, into the solution for other employees to review. Could the solution be a desktop solution, .NET application with an Azure backend? Gima, feel free to comment, but our experience so far is .NET application on desktop connecting back to Azure don't perform as well as we need. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say, and also will give us some overhead in terms of maintaining the desktop applications on the computers. So we prefer to have that as a soft as a service, or at least a cloud solution that can be kept by or maintained by the vendor, or at least a web application that can be deployed on-prem in one web server. That will be our preferable solutions to go.
Okay, thanks, Gima. And the next one, seems like your process for the DVM works okay. What's the expected outcome of going digital? It's a very good question. There's a variety of outcomes that we are targeting. The first one is removing the waste associated with manual data entry. As we have a succession of meetings throughout the day that start at a crew level, up to a department level, and up into the senior leadership level, employees have to go from one meeting to another with pieces of paper, information written on these pieces of paper from the previous meeting in front of the board, carry it across, write it on the next meeting, etc., etc. So we would want to remove that waste. We would want to also provide better insight into the existing data and make sure that when we have a meeting at 9 a.m., we are making decisions based on processed data that is from the last 30 minutes or so, rather than from 6 in the morning.
I'll give you a couple of practical examples. So right now, if we send somebody, so we assign somebody work, and to know whether that work is ready, there are digital signals saying whether that work is ready that we are not taking advantage of. So if that is pulling from those systems that are saying whether it's really ready to go, then we're removing waste from that person's day. Some of the other things is if a decision is made at a plant level, people at this moment are literally taking a photo of that and putting it in their back pocket and trying to remember to do it, rather than cascading that information or putting it into a database that is visible by the people that need to redirect their energies.
There is also an aspect of people engagement where we have a variety of crew members that feel that they would interface with the system on their computer. So for example, raising a work request or raising a work order, not having visibility on where this is at, whether their feedback has been taken into account, if they've shared a problem through a problem log at the end of their shift, not being sure that the next shift has actually seen that information because it was actually difficult to find. Saving some of their time in not having to dig and open and log in through 10 different systems and actually have everything in front of them to start their day. And also, I guess, general digitization effort. We're a multi-billion-dollar company that it is true. We have a very good daily visual management process, but it looks and feels quite archaic to still be doing things on paper and handwritten and using lagging information when we actually have the technology to display more up-to-date data. Have you evaluated any no-code solution for meeting your requirements? So do you mean a genuine no-code solution where no programmation and integration would be required? If that's the case, no, we haven't seen any, but very happy to look at some of the solutions you may be able to offer. Are you open to low-code solutions like Microsoft Power Apps? No, we have investigated what was available in the Power Apps field. It will not meet our needs, and there's been a recent change of direction from Microsoft on the Power Apps field that would substantially increase the cost to utilize this platform for an organization of our size. Do you have any investment in workflow or RPA tools like Nintex or UiPath? I'm not familiar with Nintex or UiPath, but we have RPA solutions at the moment, mainly using Automation Anywhere. I'm not sure exactly how that would solve our solution, unless I'm misunderstanding the question here and what RPA is referring to. I know RPA as robotic process automation, so effectively bots or scripts running to automate the movement of information from one bit to another. But we could use RPA instead of doing a genuine integration through an API, which is not our preference, and Gima, feel free to jump in, but even doing this, we still need the information to land into a solution that can aggregate all the databases and all the bits and pieces that we want to put together and visualize. Gima, is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's perfect, my friend.
Question, when deciding which solution to trial, what is the decision matrix? What factors are going to be scored? Don't have the checklist in front of me, but effectively what we're going to look at is the user interface, so how engaging the platform is and how easy it will be for a non-expert user to go and interact with that board with minimal training. From a technical point of view, can we display web apps? Can we integrate with APIs and SQL servers and any of the databases that we have? And can we create content in the board? So the comment that I made earlier, can we leave a comment against a particular value and ensure that that content is created inside the board and remains inside the board and can be accessed at any point in time to look at what happened on a particular day? They're really, Gima, correct me if I'm wrong here. Oh, sorry. And the last one, Gima, before you jump in, is to have something that is flexible enough and robust enough. So if we were to change our business process workflow, so for example, we're saying at the moment that information has to go from one meeting to a second into a third, and we wanted to add a fourth meeting that had a slightly different structure and look at the data differently, we would be able to build that in a reasonable period of time. As well as integrate into a new system. So if we have a well-documented REST API, or we have a SQL server that we know how to interface with and what columns to fetch, we wouldn't expect to have to spend a couple of months coding the whole thing to be able to add an additional visual. We would want to be able to do that in a matter of hours or maybe maximum days.
And to do it ourselves.
And ideally, yes, sorry, that's a very good point from Pierre. Ideally, we want to be able to do it ourselves. So very happy to pay an ongoing license fee to whoever the vendor of that solution is, but we will not be interested in having a solution that is that complex technically that we would have to come back to the vendor every time we want to make a change. We would expect to enter into an arrangement program where at the beginning of the implementation of the solution, some of our technical resources are trained by the vendor and then have the ability to do 90% of the enhancements on their own, and only if there was something very, very specific would we need to engage with the vendor.
This isn't a technical criteria, but I think we're searching for solutions that people want to use, that inspire engagement with these systems, which is always a constant goal.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for a few more questions to come in, I did have a few that people sent through who couldn't actually attend live. Some of these might have been addressed already, but we had one. does the solution have to run entirely in a web browser?
So the word entirely would suggest that only part of it would run in a web browser?
Yeah, that's all the question said.
I think yes. Gima, feel free to jump in. You can probably understand more behind that question than I do.
Yeah, well, the answer is yes. The idea is really to get a web application that is running on the browser. But at the same, if the question is more related to have different front ends for web and mobile application, yes, I would say that our desire is to have as a responsive ones that you can run in whatever mobile device and web application at the same time. But if that's not the case, we are also accepting two different front ends with the same functionalities and same look and feel or something like that.
Great. And so I had a few kind of technical questions come through. So some questions about integration. The applications that need to be shown in are these kind of third-party applications, or are they all Alcoa's kind of in-house developed applications?
There is a mix. So as Gima mentioned, we will be integrating with the PhD historian from Honeywell, OSI soft historian. We will be integrating with EAM from Oracle, the Workday HR solution that is an off-the-shelf product, Sphera, which is an environmental solution that is also off-the-shelf, and then we will have some custom SQL servers and web applications that are proprietary to Alcoa. And in the context of these web apps, I would say that 9 times out of 10, we would want to just show the embedded web app. We wouldn't want to go and connect into the underlying data and recreate through the DVM a new visual. If we've built a web application looking a certain way, we would just want to show it as it is, embedded inside that DVM.
Okay, great. There's a couple of other questions come through on the Q&A now, and then I'll go back to the others that have come through on email.
Gima, I'll let you answer that one because there's about 50% of the words that I don't understand.
You're referring to how much time do we advertise this select provided stream?
Sorry, I was looking at the next one. Have you looked into ELK?
No, we haven't.
I will Google it because I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
On the previous question, how much time do you envisage the selected provider spending on site to scope and implement the project? Again, we need to understand we are not looking for a technical solution that will be creating a workflow. We want a digital solution that can integrate to our systems and we can replicate our workflows. So someone might need to spend, I would say, maybe between 2 and 5 days with us to understand maybe how our APIs are written, what type of SQL server we're using, what type of infrastructure we're using, if in case they have to make particular adjustments, maybe work with us, not necessarily on site, I would say it's off site to provide single sign-on functionalities, but I wouldn't expect them to have to be on site for a very long period at all. Gima, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. I was Googling for Elasticsearch Kibana, and it looks like an open source data visualization dashboard.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't see this option, but it's something that we can look for later.
Okay, but so yeah, no, so we wouldn't expect people to be at site for very long, especially considering that we would like to have some form of collaboration with them where they would be training our specialists to create the board.
I had a few questions come on over email around kind of security and access. So question around, do you have any well, basically, do you have any requirements around security and access, like SSO, encryption, anything like that?
Yeah, I can go on this. So we need to go with single sign-on using SAML 2.0 because this is the standard way that we are securing the cloud applications for us. And also using Microsoft Azure Active Directory as repository for users. So pretty much all those requirements that, I mean, in general, we need to have as part of the solution.
Okay, great. And is there anything else on like customer, like any permission systems additional to that?
Sorry, say again.
There's another follow-up question around if there's any additional customizable permission systems.
No.
No, I don't think so.
And I had a few questions around usage. So how many users you might anticipate using the system and kind of what type of users you might anticipate?
So it's an important question because we know that a lot of the vendors will offer a licensing model based on the number of active license. For the purpose of what we're doing, we would say that a license for which we would be paying would be a logged in user to actually display something on the screen. If we were to take that approach, I would say we would be targeting probably anywhere from 150 to 500 users. It really, I guess it really depends what model the vendor approaches. And I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you have a department that has at the moment 5 digital boards. These 5 boards might be combined into 2 or 3 TVs that will be, or screens, sorry, that will be casting the system. All the information on these 3 TVs will be relevant to that particular department. We would expect this, so these 3 TVs showing the information for that one department, to be one user. If that was the case, I would say we would be in about the 200 user mark.
Cool. And we just had a question come through in the chat there. Are you open to Google Cloud Platform?
Yes, definitely we are. We just need to go through the technical aspects of the implementation, security, and all this stuffs related to that. And if it's approved by our security organization, we are ready to go.
And just back on the kind of security, there was a couple of questions around, we kind of said it kind of could be cloud-based or on-prem. So if the solution was on-prem, are there any specific requirements for that? Or if it was cloud-based, are there any additional kind of compliance requirements around data hosting and things?
Guima, you can comment on Claire. I know that we would find it very difficult to justify going on-prem.
Yeah, especially now that we are moving to the cloud, all this custom, let's not custom, but commercial applications, yes.
In terms of additional encryption, Guima?
No, yeah, no. What we are really keen to get is really all the standards that we have currently for application authorization, authentication, security is the ones that we need to look for. We don't have any specific particular requirements other than the standard ones. So it's pretty much using, as I said, Microsoft Azure Active Directory for authentication. If it's on-prem, you need to be relying on the either information services token or something related that's residing on the Microsoft credentials. Cloud, as I said, you need to go for single sign-on, use SAML 2.0. And of course, encryption is part of this. But again, it's pretty much the standard way to authorize and authenticate to make security on the application side.
Okay, great.
But yeah, just one thing on this word, Holly, is depend or regardless the solution that you are going to go, we need to make security assessment on that, right? So to ensure that everything is under Alcoa policies and Alcoa standards for security. It's something that a questionnaire that needs to go through with a lot of detail in terms of technical aspects, security, and also how to deal with data privacy, and all of those stuffs. But it's pretty much straightforward by any cloud solution or system that we are put in place in Alcoa.
Okay, great. I've just had one more come through on the Q&A. What aspect of the solution do you believe will be the most challenging to digitize?
What aspect? Well, theoretically, if I take a very purist approach, a database is a database. If we have the right API, we have the right API, and the hardest part will be for us to redesign the workflows once we've been able to show better and more accurate information. I would expect this from an installation or a deployment point of view. I'm not talking change management, right? But from a deployment point of view, I wouldn't expect this to be difficult if we find the right solution that can visualize the data however we want, using the Power BI analogy that I used earlier. The difficult part will be for us to make sure that we have the right processes that now take advantage of having close to real-time information.
Right. We did have one other question, not sure if you will be able to do this, but asking if it's possible to share any information, example information that people can then use in their demos to make them more relevant for you.
If it's possible to share, sorry?
Some example information that people can then use in their demos.
Sure. So like screenshots of some of our boards, for example?
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yep, I don't think that would be a problem. We can find some that we can share openly. How do you envision the solution scaling globally across sites? So the approach that we would like to take is to run with probably a proof of concept on one very small data point or database to see exactly how the solution works, then scale it to a pilot across 3 locations that are in different countries or different regions or different cities. Bearing in mind that a lot of the systems that this daily visual management will connect to are actually common across locations. So what I mean by this is we have in Australia 6 locations. So we have 3 refineries, 2 mines and 1 smelter. Some of them are on the East Coast, some of them are on the West Coast, but they're all utilizing, as an example, the same ERP solution. EAM and the Rec-to-Pay side of Oracle are hosted in the same platform. So theoretically, if you turn on one location, then turning on the remaining 5 wouldn't be too difficult. It would just be a matter of applying the right filters, so you only show information that are relevant to a specific site. So from a global rollout, we would expect to have the exact same approach where most of our databases are common across more than one site. How long do you envisage a minimum viable product to be up and running concurrently with the current boards? How long would it be running for, or how long until we expect to start the project? So how long it would be running for concurrently with the existing boards? not for very long. If it works well, I would expect us to chuck the existing boards in the bin very, very quickly. Have someone in the room telling me one day, or maybe that was 1 hour, I'm not sure. But yeah, the concurrent wouldn't be very long, because it will be very easy for us to assess whether the information is coming through correctly and helping with decision making. How long until we run a pilot or a POC? I would say that in the next 2 months or so, we would want to start seeing relevant information displayed on the relevant boards in specific locations. And the intent would be to have the 3 pilot locations done by middle of Q2 at the latest. Hence why we're not talking about building something specifically for Alcoa, but using a solution off the shelf that has been proven and already implemented.
There's just one more question from Mark on the chat there, around presuming like who's going to be capturing actions and problems, and how the meeting room will see that.
Yeah, that's correct. So you usually have a person leading that particular toolbox meeting or department meeting. You would have several employees talking and really problem solving together. And then you would have probably a person sitting behind a keyboard, or at the moment behind the board, and taking actions and making comments for the crew to be able to look at for the rest of the day. So yeah, that's correct.
I would like personally to see more pre-work being done. So maybe other users that have shared responsibility doing that work before we get together in a meeting. But yeah, the meeting itself would generally be one driver.
Okay, great. I'll give everyone a couple of here's another question come up. So we're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to pop in last questions, and then we'll wrap up. So just one more in the Q&A there.
What is your expectation from the vendor at this evaluation stage? Well, it would be for you in your submission to give us an understanding of how your solution meets the 3 or 4 criteria that I've described earlier. Provide some, I guess, screenshots of existing solutions that meet our visualization requirements. The type of implementation timeframe you usually look at, the type of training that you provide for your customers to be self-sustainable. Maybe some examples of use cases where you've been, we've talked to a few companies in the past that have showed us use cases that they had put in place with vendors in the hospitality industry, in the manufacturing industry, and saying realistically, what do these boards look like? We don't want to do something gimmicky, right? We want to do something that people will look at and go, I like the look and feel of this, and I want to interact with this, and this is going to make me more engaged in my day-to-day work. So if we could have screenshots to see what this looks like for you, that will help us make a decision.
Excellent. All right. Well, we haven't had any more questions come through. I'll give people maybe another 30 seconds, but thanks very much, Johan, Pierre, and Guillaume. Really appreciate your time. I think that was really great, and a lot of really good questions coming through from everyone. If people have follow-up questions, there is a forum just on the website that you can pop that in, and the guys will be able to have access to all of those, so you can put in some additional questions if you do have them. Johan, is there anything else you wanted to say? Was there any other information you think people could use at this stage?
No, nothing else to share. Just want to thank everybody, I guess, for taking the time to look at our challenge and come and participate and ask questions and try and solve our problem.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We have recorded this, so we'll send it through to the people that did participate. And yeah, thanks again very much, everybody. And yeah, feel free to get in touch with myself anytime if you have any more questions. So thanks very much, and I'll close out here.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Cheers.